All right, this is day 2, so let's talk about what we talked about yesterday. A little bit of review. The anatomy of an HTML element. This entire thing is an element. So what are those things called between the angle brackets? I mean, like everything from angle bracket to angle bracket. That whole thing is called a... Well, the whole thing's an element. So a tag, right? There's 2 tags. Everything between the angle brackets at the top is a tag. That's a closing tag at the bottom. The whole thing collectively is an element. Class and ID are attributes. And hello world would be the, the contents, right? Which in this case is just text content, right? So we learned that we can snatch elements off the page with CSS selector syntax. The very same syntax we use to target elements in CSS, we can use to target elements in JavaScript by using query selector. So some of the selector syntax that we learned yesterday, we can select things by just the element name, in which case, how would we grab this paragraph? What would the selector be? If we're just doing it by element name, just P, right? It's just a paragraph. If we wanted to do it by the ID, that would be hash main, right? If we wanted to do it by element name and ID, did we talk about this? I think I skipped this one in the afternoon. I talked about it in the morning. Just P hash main would mean not just any old element with an ID of main, has to be a paragraph with an ID of main. Notice there's no space between the P and the hash. That means something totally different. So that would mean something that where we're enforcing both the tag name and the ID. By class, how would that be different? So dot greeting in this case, right? So all of this has to do with the DOM, the document object model. That is how your document is represented in the browser. It parses your HTML, builds this tree out of it. That's all called the DOM. So as we deal with the elements on the page after the page renders, that is the DOM that we are messing with. So that's document.various things when we want to mess with the DOM. So to select all matching elements, how would we do that? Document.what? All elements that match a particular selector. Query selector all, right? And to grab just one element, just query selector, right? To get the contents of an element, assuming that it is text, that text content, right? And we also learned about add event listener yesterday. That is one of the ways that we can make one thing happen when another thing happens. Click a button, run a function. Submit a form, run a function. Move your mouse over something, run a function, etc. So add event listener takes 2 arguments. One, the event that you're listening for, like click or submit or mouse over or whatever. The second argument is the function that should run when that happens. So today we're going to manipulate the DOM a little more using not only text content but also inner HTML and other stuff. And we're going to dig a little more into Git and how it works, why we use version control period, and specifically what's different about Git and why we like it and how to use it. Cool? Questions about this stuff so far?